Hello everyone, welcome to Rock Solid Sports in place of Sierra Galanza. I'm Danielle Whaley, joined by Forman and Tanner Carson. We're going to talk about all of the matchups in week 6, but first let's go ahead and talk about number 9 Tennessee, number 8 Texas A&M Volunteers heading to College Station. What are you expecting to happen in this game?
Well, I'm expecting this to be a little bit different game than what Tennessee has played so far, Danielle. I think Tennessee, this is the best chance they've had to maybe go and play a full 60 minutes. It's also the first time Tennessee's been the underdog in the media. I think they're hearing a lot more negative talk about them for the first time this season. And I think maybe it's going to get to Tennessee. Maybe it's going to cause them to come out early, be more aggressive, and play a full 60 minutes. There's a lot of talk in the media about how this Tennessee team isn't good. It's lucky. I think they're going to prove that while, yes, the Georgia game was luck, there have been a lot of games that have been won by how good they are.
You know, it's funny, if people just watched the first half of Tennessee's games, they wouldn't have thought they were one of the best teams in the SEC. But we've seen how they dominate teams in the second half. The result's 5-0, first time since 1998. Some people are saying it feels like 98. We'll truly know this Saturday when they go to Kyle Field, largest stadium in the SEC, crazy environment. You know, they responded pretty well in a tough road environment against Georgia, but they're going to face a lot tougher of a test against Texas. Texas A&M, most prolific offense in the SEC, number 1 offense in the SEC. It's going to be a true test to see how good of a team Tennessee is, if they can play a complete game, and how much of an effect these injuries are going to have, especially on the defense.
It's definitely going to be a tough matchup for the Vols, but it could also be a tough matchup for A&M. But what are the keys to this game?
Well, the keys here for me, for Tennessee, it's pretty simple. It's playing a full 60 minutes. It's got to happen. This is the best team, like Tanner said, that Tennessee has played so far this season. And it's a team that they probably can't come back against if they do get down 14-21 again. They've got to keep it close in the first half. They've got to play a full 60 minutes. And they've got to limit the turnovers. They've done a great job of, we fumble the ball, we get it back. In Athens last week, we saw we fumble the ball, we lost the ball. They've got to get the ball back. They've got to be better. They don't even need to turn the ball over. They've got to control the ball as best they can.
Well, 2 major keys, one for offense, one for the defense for Tennessee. They have any hope of winning this. For their defense, first of all, they have to keep Trevor Knight in the pocket, because Trevor Knight has hurt a lot of teams. Arkansas saw that especially with his legs. We saw him struggle a little bit in the passing game against South Carolina. I think if they can keep him contained, especially that defensive line does as good of work as they've done the last few weeks, I think Tennessee has a good shot, because Texas A&M's wide receiver core is going to be a little bit depleted. We don't know what the stats of Ricky Seals-Jones and Speedy Noel are, even though they do have a great wide receiver core. It's going to be, you know, interesting to see how much of an effect that Texas A&M passing game is going to have without them, especially if Tennessee can keep that Texas A&M running game from hurting them. I think they have a great shot.
Both teams have a lot of talent. This is a marquee SEC matchup for the weekend, but who are the players to watch?
Well, for Tennessee, it starts with Alvin Kamara. I really think Tennessee's been misusing Jalen Hurd a lot this year offensively, been trying to get him to the outside too much. He's a very fast player, but unlike Alvin Kamara, he doesn't have a great acceleration. Alvin Kamara can go 0 to 60 like a Porsche. Jalen Hurd can go 0 to 60 more like a Hummer. He's got a lot of speed, but he can't get there as quick. All these outside runs, our offensive line is not built to make that successful for Jalen Hurd. It is for Alvin Kamara because of his acceleration. Defensively, I think it's all about Colton Jumper. He's going to get a lot of playing time again this week. He's got to once again have the game of his life like he has the last 2 weeks. For Texas A&M, defensively it's Myles Garrett. We know he's banged up. He's still not going to be at 100%. Missed last week's game against South Carolina. It really hurt the Aggie defense. How healthy is he going to be? How big of an impact is he going to be able to have for the Aggies? Offensively, it's all about Trevor Knight. If he can get outside the pocket and make big plays, he can keep A&M in the lead and give the Aggies a great chance to win this ballgame.
Well, for Tennessee on offense, it all starts with who has been dubbed the Miracle Man the last couple of weeks, Jawan Jennings. His overall wide receiving performance, you know, he had a great game against Florida. He had a couple of good catches against Georgia. Can he put it all together for a complete game against that Texas A&M secondary? You know, not one of the worst secondaries in the conference, but he most certainly has a chance to, you know, kind of build off the last 2 games he's had. Maybe he feels invincible. Maybe he can have a complete game. For defense for Tennessee, Derek Barnett. You know, we're going to see a great matchup. Sam already mentioned Myles Garrett for Texas A&M on the Tennessee defensive line. It's all about Derek Barnett. He shows up in the big conference games. He's shown up with 2 sacks against Florida and Georgia. He can have a great game against A&M, especially with the Aggies' top offensive lineman, Jermaine, and I've got his name here because it's hard to pronounce, Illuminor. He is still a little banged up, so Derek Barnett has a good chance to feast on that. For Texas A&M offense and on special teams too, it is all about Christian Kirk. He's their #1 receiver as far as receptions go. He had a great freshman year last year, not only receiving but also had a couple of punt returns. He's not been as explosive in special teams this year, but he's always a threat. And for Texas A&M's defense, on that other side of that defensive line, you have Deshaun Hall. He had 2 sacks against South Carolina, 3 TFLs in Myles Garrett's absence. Depending on how good Myles Garrett is to go against Tennessee, we may see a lot more Deshaun Hall making an impact along that Texas A&M defensive line.
So looking at the Red River rivalry, very heated rivalry in college football between Texas and number 20 Oklahoma. Who gets the win in this one?
Look, I thought Texas was back earlier in the year. They've struggled a little bit more than I thought they would. I have a feeling all of this talk about Charlie Strong right now is going to be too much for a very young yet talented Texas Longhorn team to take in. I have a feeling Charlie Strong's already out at Texas, which I think is a mistake personally. I think he gets cut. I think he gets fired on Sunday. OU wins 35-21.
Same wavelength as Sam. I think it's going to be a crushing defeat for the Texas Longhorns because I've got the Sooners winning 45-42 and overtime. And Charlie Strong, it's going to be a miracle he makes it through the rest of this season. But I've got a shootout and the Red River rivalry.
So let's shift over to the ACC really quick. Let's talk about Virginia Tech visiting North Carolina. Who wins in this one?
Both these teams got off to slow starts in the season, but they've improved since, and we've seen them get closer to what we expected them to be. North Carolina, a lot of people wondering if they'll be able to survive after that epic performance against Florida State last weekend. I think they will. Hokies go down. Tar Heels win 41-38.
There's too much suspect about that Virginia Tech defense. I think it's going to be a close game, but Mitch Trubisky, North Carolina's quarterback, he's a dark horse Heisman contender. He's played great all year. I think he's going to be too much for that Virginia Tech secondary. UNC keeps the momentum rolling after that great win against Florida State, 35-27.
So let's move into the rivalry of Florida that's going to be happening this weekend between Florida State and Miami. The Seminoles visiting the Hurricanes. Who wins in this one?
Well, I hate to say it, Seminoles, you're not going to be getting State of Florida championship rings this year. Hurricanes and Mark Richt get it done 45-35 over the Noles.
Is the U back? That's what people are wondering. They're off to a great start under Mark Richt, undefeated, but who have they played? You got to look, they have not played really any tough competition so far this year. FSU is still one of the best teams in the country, I think, as far as talent goes. I think the Noles get a bounce back win on their season, 28-24, in the rivalry against the Hurricanes.
Let's talk about the high school gridiron really quick. A big game this Friday night under the lights between Gibbs going over to South Doyle. Who wins in this one?
Look, both these teams having a pretty good season, but Gibbs is almost having an historic season here. I'm going with Gibbs 38-31 over South Doyle.
This is kind of tough because both these teams are pretty evenly matched, but they were going to South Doyle. I've got a friend Nathaniel Rutherford who calls games play-by-play for South Doyle. I've got South Doyle winning 31-20 over Kenny Chesney High School Gibbs.
So we're almost halfway through the college football season. Who's on upset alert this week?
Well, upset alert for me this week is a team that went down last week in Pac-12 action. It's the Stanford Cardinal. They got crushed by Washington last week, and I have a feeling the same injuries that plagued them against the Huskies are going to continue to plague them against the Cougars. I've got Washington State beating Stanford. Stanford might just drop out of the top 25 after that one.
I have some bad news for America's favorite mid-major, favorite group of 5 school, the Houston Cougars. Everyone looked at their schedule and said they're not, after Oklahoma, they're not going to have a real test until Louisville. But they played the Navy midshipmen. That triple option attack has taken down many great teams over the years. I think the midshipmen get done 24-20 over Greg Ford and the Cougars.
So finally, we move into our final prediction of the week. It's number 9 Tennessee against number 8 Texas A&M. Undefeated matchup in the SEC. What's your prediction?
Well, we're going to finally find out who these two teams are. If they're both for real, if one of them's for real and the other's a pretender. We're going to know a lot of answers after this game. Tennessee may be looking ahead to Alabama a little bit. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they're going to play angry. I think they're going to put a full 60 minutes together. Vols win 28-21 on the road in College Station.
Tennessee might be feeling like a team of destiny right now, and they may have that mindset going into the game, but I think Texas A&M is just too much of a bad matchup for the Vols, especially with all the depletion on that defensive side. You still have no Jalen Reese-Maven. Derek Kirkland's probably not going to play. You still have that depleted secondary. And I think Tennessee's had trouble against mobile quarterbacks at some points this season. I think Trevor Knight's one of the toughest tests they've had from an opposing quarterback. I've got the Aggies winning 34-24.
So we have a split board here today on predictions for this weekend. You can check into that game Saturday at 3:30 on CBS between the Vols and the Aggies. For Tanner Carson, for Sam Forman, I'm Danielle Whaley. Thank you for joining us this week on Rock Solid Sports.